Hello everyone, this is Trackpad Artist, and welcome back to our continued exploration of Ryng. This time, we'll be looking into something we haven't touched on until now, that being Ryng's sentient peoples. We are already well aware of humanity's influential role within Ryng, being the most widespread and prosperous of their fellow races, but this doesn't mean they are alone in their sentience. Far from it, in fact. But before we get into that, this channel has been growing so fast that I can't escape the need for a few more announcements. Firstly, we've hit well over 5,000 subscribers, a monumental milestone. A huge thank you to you all for your interest in and continued support of Ryng. It truly means a great deal. With this, for those of you who'd like to give a little extra to my work without the need to set up a Patreon account, I've finally been able to open up YouTube memberships. In a similar vein to Patreon, those who choose to support me by becoming a member of this channel will gain access to additional benefits both here as well as in my Discord. Finally, I am looking into a means to celebrate these monumental milestones, but this channel has simply grown too fast for me to have anything prepared. Once I figure something out, I'll be sure to announce it so we can all celebrate together. With all that out of the way, I think we're finally ready to dive into Ryng's first and wisest sentient race. Let's dive into the Nauffee. The Nauffee were the first sentient peoples to settle on Ryng. Rumored by Ryng's religious communities to be the direct descendants of the first fallen angels, the Nauffee are seen as remnants of Ryng's most ancient cultures. Even so, the Nauffee have adjusted themselves rather well to Ryng's modern cultural climate, often integrating themselves into Ryng's many communities to the point that they have become a Ryng-wide people. Tall and slender in their physique, the Nauffee stand between 6 and 7 feet tall when fully grown. Human-esque in appearance, the Nauffee are distinguished from humanity by the feathers that grow on their bodies, which run along their forearms and shins, as well as up their sides, backs, and necks, and even the sides of their faces. Additionally, the Nauffee's feather-lined, pointed ears that run up the sides of their heads further pull them away from humanity's guise. This is all absent of the fact that the Nauffee have no wings to speak of, their feathers being nothing more than remnants of their supposed celestial lineage, granting them an air of grace about them, no matter their situation. When it comes to distinguishing between male and female, Nauffee are generally distinguished from one another much like humans, with a few key differences. Male Nauffee do not grow facial hair, and are typically smaller than the females, standing at the lower end of 6 feet tall when grown, while females stand closer to 7. Furthermore, the feathers of a male are darker, shifting from dark grays and blacks to navy blues, while females adorn blue-gray and white feathers. A Nauffee's hair almost always matches their feathers, with males often growing neck-length hair, while females tend to grow theirs down to their waists. This, of course, isn't a biological law, but a cultural one. The Nauffee take great pride in their hair and its maintenance, in some spaces even using its style and accessories as a symbol of status and wealth. The rich and prestigious of Nauffee communities will often style their hair with complex braids and knots, weaving chains of fine metals and silk ribbons into their locks, further pushing their graceful demeanor and aura onto those of lesser standing. Looking further into their culture, however, we come to see that much of their traditions stem from their long lifespans, theorized to be the cause of their celestial lineage. As such, after reaching maturity in their early 20s, a Nauffee can live up to, in some cases, 350 years. This long lifespan has brought about a culture of varied experience, focused on intaking as many experiences as possible throughout one's life. As such, the Nauffee are a naturally curious people, typically living in a community for no more than a decade before taking their lives in a new direction and setting. This cultural behavior pushes the Nauffee to become versed in all manner of skills and trades, often avoiding attaining a mastery for their talents in favor of learning something new. This makes the Nauffee an incredibly versatile people, often dedicating themselves to a life of trade, using whatever skills they are currently honing to support themselves as they travel. Even so, this versatility can be less than useful when in need of a particular expertise, leading the Nauffee to visit and mingle with other communities with regularity. By extension, this makes the Nauffee a very social race, as they often interact with other peoples frequently, at least when they aren't buried within the intricacies of their current fixation. This pseudo-nomadic lifestyle, coupled with their low population in comparison to man, leads the Nauffee to move around within nothing more than their family units, often leaving home to explore their own experiences as soon as they reach maturity. Only after many years, or perhaps even decades on their own, once they have experienced and learned what they deem sufficient, will a Nauffee look to start a family, the next chapter of their life, full of even further experiences alongside a partner. The Nauffee take great care in selecting their partner, as the bond of shared experience is held sacred to them, and by extent is not one that should be easily broken. Once committed to one another, a pair of Nauffee will spend many further decades sharing their skills between them, as well as learning new experiences alongside one another. Only after this point do Nauffee come to bear children, an act they view to be incredibly sacred due to the irreplaceable experiences it brings. Because of this, Nauffee parents only ever come to raise a few children, dedicating all their time to teaching them the many talents and trades they have attained throughout their many decades of life. With only a few decades under their parents' care, Nauffee children are naturally very quick to learn, needing to learn a great manner of skills in a relatively short time frame before they, too, leave the metaphorical nest. The Nauffee's small family units and relative population, as well as their many decades of solitude, make them somewhat of an uncommon sighting amongst human communities, but not altogether rare either, thanks to their consistent journeys they take throughout their lives. As such, relations between humans and the Nauffee are all generally positive, as the many skills of the Nauffee provide many trading and employment opportunities within human communities. This relationship, however, comes under some tension with particular Nauffee, who sometimes view themselves as above humanity due to their supposed celestial roots. Even with these occasional cultural tensions, the relationship between humans and the Nauffee remains one largely of open collaboration and trade, as each of these communities bring many things to their respective tables for one another. Apart from their appearance and culture, however, the Nauffee are also distinct from humanity when it comes to their relationship with magic. The Nauffee naturally have a high metabolism, which is what is responsible for their slender figures. This biological rhythm, however, has the added effect of increasing the Nauffee's heart resting rate. This, by its nature, allows the Nauffee to build up passive kinetic energies a little faster than humans. Not to an incredible degree, mind you, as this energy is still often too little to be put to use by arcanists, but noticeable enough to be a distinguishing factor of the Nauffee. In addition to their increased buildup of kinetic energies, the Nauffee's supposed celestial roots appear to limit or dampen the harming effects of casting without the use of glass. In a similar vein to their buildup of kinetic energies, this resistance to casting-imposed injuries is minimal, but noticeable, leaving most Nauffee mages to continue to employ glass within their casting, for the sake of a more secure defense against magic-induced injury. These are all attributes of the Nauffee people, a widespread race of many trades and skills, raised from birth to develop and expand their skill set to live life to the fullest. A race of craftsmen, scholars, and merchants that calls Ryng its home. With that, it appears as though we've run out of time for this discussion. If you've enjoyed this dive into the first of the many races I plan on including into Ryng's development, why not leave a like on the video? And if you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing. Until next time, this has been Trackpad Artist. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again soon for our next discussion.